There was a time when saving money felt safe. You worked hard. You saved. You planned for the future. And you believed, truly believed, that the money sitting in your bank account would still mean something years later. Your parents told you, save for a rainy day. Your teachers taught you, a penny saved is a penny earned. The promise was simple: work hard, save responsibly, and you'll be rewarded. But something has quietly changed. Not overnight. Not dramatically. Slowly. Almost invisibly. Today, your money is losing value even when the numbers in your account look exactly the same. You may not notice it immediately, but you feel it. Every time you buy groceries. Every time you pay rent. Every time you fill your fuel tank or book a simple trip. Something feels different. Heavier. More expensive. Prices rise. Your salary doesn't. At least, not at the same pace. And this is not an accident. This is not temporary. This is not going away. This is inflation, not the kind you read about in textbooks, but the kind that quietly reshapes everyday life. And in the next 15 minutes, I'm going to show you exactly why your money will be worth less in the coming years, and what that means for your future. Inflation is often explained as prices going up. But that's not the real story. That's not what's actually happening. Inflation is money losing purchasing power. It means the same 100 rupees, $100, or 100 euros buys less than it did before. The number stays the same. But the value behind it shrinks. Let me give you a concrete example. In 2000, 100 rupees could buy you a decent meal at a restaurant, maybe even two. Today, that same 100 rupees might get you a single snack. In the United States, a gallon of milk cost around $2.70 in 2000. Today, it's closer to $4 or more. In Europe, a cup of coffee that cost €1 20 years ago now costs 3 or 4 euros. The money didn't disappear. But its power did. And the reason this is happening now, and will continue happening, lies in how modern money is created. Money today is not backed by gold. It's not backed by silver or any physical commodity. It is backed by trust. Trust that governments will manage it responsibly. Trust that central banks will protect its value. Trust that printing more won't destroy what already exists. But over the last few decades, especially after financial crises, pandemics, and wars, that trust has been tested like never before. Whenever economies slow down, governments face a choice. A difficult, politically painful choice. They can raise taxes. But that makes people angry. They can cut spending. But that means fewer services, fewer jobs, fewer benefits. Or they can print money. And printing money is the easiest choice. It feels painless at first. No immediate backlash. No visible cost. No angry voters. Just numbers added to a system. But here's what most people don't understand. Every new unit of money dilutes the value of the existing ones. It's like adding water to milk. The cup looks fuller, but the nutrition is weaker. Since 2008, after the global financial crisis, and especially after 2020, during the pandemic, governments around the world printed more money than at any point in human history. Not billions. Trillions. The United States alone created over $5 trillion in new money in just 2 years during COVID-19. The European Central Bank, the Bank of Japan, central banks everywhere, all did the same. And this wasn't cash you could see or touch. This was digital money, created with keystrokes. Electronic entries in a database. This money flowed into markets, banks, assets, and government programs. It stabilized economies in the short term. It prevented immediate collapse. It kept businesses alive and people employed. But it planted the seeds for long-term inflation. Because here's the fundamental truth: money creation doesn't create real value. Only productivity does. When you print more money but don't produce more goods, more services, more housing, more food, what happens? The same amount of stuff. More money chasing it. Prices rise. That's when ordinary people feel it the most. Inflation doesn't destroy wealth equally. That's the cruel part. It quietly transfers it. Those closest to new money, governments, banks, large corporations, asset owners, benefit first. They spend it before prices fully rise. A billionaire with stocks sees their portfolio value increase. A corporation with access to cheap loans expands. A real estate investor buys property before prices explode. By the time money reaches workers, the teachers, the nurses, the engineers, the small business owners, prices have already adjusted. The middle class doesn't own massive assets. They don't hold inflation-proof wealth. They earn salaries. And salaries are always the last thing to rise. You might get a 3% raise. But if inflation is running at 6, 8, or 10%, you're actually getting poorer. This is why assets like real estate, stocks, gold, and commodities often rise during inflation, while savings accounts fall behind. Your bank gives you 2% interest. But inflation takes away 7%. You're losing 5% every year, just by being responsible and saving. Your bank balance might grow slowly, but your expenses rise quickly. Rent goes up. Food prices climb. Utilities increase. Education costs soar. Healthcare becomes more expensive. And the gap keeps widening. This is why so many people feel like they are working harder than their parents ever did, but somehow falling behind. They're not imagining it. They're not failing. The system itself has shifted beneath their feet. Now add one more pressure. One more layer to this story. Debt. Modern economies run on debt. It's not a bug, it's a feature. Governments borrow trillions. Corporations borrow billions. Households borrow to buy homes, cars, education. Debt only works when money keeps flowing and inflation slowly erodes its real value. In fact, moderate inflation helps debtors. It makes old debt cheaper to repay with weaker money. If you borrowed $100,000 10 years ago, and inflation has reduced the dollar's value by 30%, you're effectively repaying with cheaper dollars. The lender loses purchasing power. But for savers, inflation is a silent tax. A tax you never voted for. A tax that doesn't appear on any bill. A tax that no politician will ever admit to imposing. Yet it quietly reduces the value of everything you've saved. You work. You sacrifice. You save $50,000 over 10 years. But that $50,000 doesn't buy what it used to. Your discipline is punished. Your prudence is penalized. Meanwhile, those who borrowed heavily, those who took on debt to buy assets, are rewarded. Their assets appreciate. Their debt shrinks in real terms. The system incentivizes spending and borrowing, and punishes saving. Central banks often say inflation is temporary, transitory, under control. Sometimes they're right. Sometimes inflation spikes for a year or two and then settles. But structural inflation, the kind caused by debt, money printing, supply chain stress, energy costs, and geopolitical tension, is different. It doesn't disappear easily. It becomes part of the system. And in the coming years, multiple forces will push money's value even lower. Aging populations. More retirees. Fewer workers. Higher healthcare and pension costs. Governments will need money. Rising government spending. Climate change infrastructure. Social programs. Political promises. All require funding. Military budgets. Tensions between nations. Wars. Defense spending rising globally. Energy transition costs. Moving away from fossil fuels requires trillions in investment. Digital currencies. Central banks are exploring their own digital currencies, giving them even more control over money creation. Global instability. Pandemics. Wars. Supply shocks. Each crisis leads to more money printing. All of these forces require money. Massive amounts of money. And the easiest way to get it is to create more of it. This doesn't mean your money will suddenly become worthless overnight. This isn't Zimbabwe or Weimar Germany. It means something more subtle and more dangerous. Your future money will buy less effort, less time, and less freedom. Retirement becomes harder. Savings feel insufficient. Planning becomes uncertain. People who do everything right, who study hard, work hard, save responsibly, still struggle. And this leads to frustration, anxiety, and quiet anger. Why am I working so hard but can't afford what my parents could? Why does everything feel more expensive? Why does my savings account feel like it's shrinking even though the number goes up? These aren't random feelings. They're the lived reality of a system designed this way. But understanding the problem is power. When you realize that money is designed to lose value over time, your mindset changes. You stop thinking only about saving money, and start thinking about protecting purchasing power. You start asking different questions. Not, how much money do I have? But what can this money actually buy? Not, how do I save more? But how do I preserve value? Because in the modern world, money that stands still is money that moves backward. The coming years won't destroy wealth in dramatic crashes alone. Those happen. But they are rare. Most wealth will be eroded slowly. Silently. Day by day. Year by year. And the people who suffer most won't be the reckless or careless. They will be the ones who trusted the system to protect the value of their hard work. That is why your money will be worth less in the coming years. Not because you failed. Not because you didn't work hard enough. But because the system was never designed to make money stronger. It was designed to keep it moving. To keep it flowing. To keep the machine running. Even if that means your future becomes more expensive, and your savings become less powerful. The question now is, what will you do with this knowledge?